Okay, so welcome to your class. This is Forensic Psychology. I'm Professor Silk. This is kind of a novel way that I'm trying to teach this course. Typically I teach Forensic Psychology in person in a classroom much like this, but since you have this class online, we're going to try to do something a little different, and I want to try and recreate the classroom experience as much as I can. We will probably utilize Illuminate at some point in the course, but for now, we're going to try things this way, and then probably after like 3 classes, we'll have an Illuminate session where we'll have some live interaction with each other. For now, though, just sit back and watch these lectures. These will be like mini lectures that cover material that is associated with the chapter. So you won't get the whole thing. I know you have a lot of reading. You have PowerPoint slides from the textbook, which are different from the PowerPoint slides here. However, I want you to take notes while you watch this, just like you would take in a regular class. So you'll see the PowerPoint slides behind me here. Feel free to take notes on those, and most likely I'll post those to Blackboard as well. So let's get the class started. I'm going to kind of stand over here. You might not see me very good, but it's really not important as to what I look like. It's the material that's important here. So the first thing is, what is forensic psychology? And in our discussions, we've had some disagreement on what exactly forensic psychology is. And I wrote about a famous story of mine where my mother would brag to her friends about her son going to New York City to study forensic psychology. People would say, you know, Nancy, what is that? What exactly is it? And she had a really hard time defining it. So that's when she would go with, oh, it's just like CSI. So every time I go home, people think that I'm investigating crime scenes and looking at blood splatter, things like that, which is not even close to what I do. What I do primarily is I'm an academic, and I teach just like this. I teach forensic psychology and psychology of criminal behavior, and we do research here at NOVA. So what is forensic psychology? Is it Silence of the Lambs? That's what other people think, that you're going into, you're like Clarice Starling and you're going into a jail and you're interviewing Hannibal Lecter. That's not quite it either. But it's close. That's actually quite a bit closer than CSI. Alright, if we really look at the word forensic, it comes from the Latin word forensis. And that comes from the Republican Forum of Rome. That's that building that you're looking at right there. And what that was really the ancient court system that was used in Rome. So people would have disagreements, or like modern day lawsuits, and they would go to the forum and they would argue their cases. And those skills that they used in arguing cases were called forensic skills. So in high school, sometimes they have a forensic team. Those kids aren't going out to crime scenes, trust me. But what they are is a debate team. So forensic skills could be argumentative or rhetorical skills. And if we look at a dictionary definition of forensic, just at what the word forensic means, we see that basic definition up there in number 2, argumentative or rhetorical. The first definition, belonging to, used in, or suitable to courts of judicature or to public discussion and debate, is a definition that a lot of people use to describe forensic psychology. They think that forensic psychology only has a place in the courtroom. I'm not sure I like that as a definition of forensic psychology, though. And then the third definition there is relating to or dealing with the application of scientific knowledge to legal problems. That comes a little closer for me. I like that definition more. However, if we look at all 3 of them, all 3 have positive sides and negative sides. I like other definitions of forensic psychology. But there's been a debate in the field for a long time. Let's look at some definitions from the early 80s and then the 90s. This first one is from Hayward in 1981. That definition was the branch of applied psychology which is concerned with the collection, examination, and presentation of evidence for judicial purposes. So, according to Hayward, what that means is that you are a psychologist, you collect, examine, and present evidence for a legal purpose in a courtroom setting. That's very, very restrictive. Now, I use the example of Dr. Fagan, who's my boss in this department. He worked in the federal prison system for years and years and years and years. According to Hayward's definition, he wouldn't be a forensic psychologist. Neither would a psychologist that worked in a police department or a criminal profiler. So I don't like that definition. The next definition by Blackburn is actually very similar. Blackburn's definition is the provision of psychological information for the purpose of facilitating a legal definition. I don't like either of these definitions. However, many people would argue that this is truly what forensic psychology is. This would be a narrow definition. This definition is from the textbook, from Whitesmith and Falero. This is the definition I like. This should be the definition that you like as well, and you should probably write down because it'll probably be on the midterm exam. So, here the text defines forensic psychology as any application of psychological research, methods, or theories and practice to a task faced by the legal system. And really, I would simplify it even more and say any application of psychology to the law. That is a super broad definition. So anytime you have a psychologist in any capacity that's working with a legal issue, that then becomes forensic psychology. This is a definition that the textbook uses. This is similar to the definition that I use and definition I like. A very, very broad definition of forensic psychology. And law and science have a long history. The law has embraced science. And you got to remember that psychology is a science. But psychology really hasn't been embraced like science has. And some of these issues are historical, have been historical individuals of great importance. And Archimedes is one of those. If you remember the story of Archimedes, he was charged with the task of determining if the king's crown was in fact made out of gold or not made out of gold. And he came up with the formula for figuring out density. So, you remember that story, Archimedes, he couldn't figure this out, and he couldn't fall asleep, and he was up at night, and he didn't know what to do. Then one night he decided that he would take a bath. So he filled up the bathtub, and then got in the bathtub, saw the water rise when he got in the bathtub, and then he realized that he had stumbled upon his answer. And at that point, he jumped out of the bathtub, went running around the streets screaming, "Eureka, Eureka!" And that's really the application of scientific inquiry to a legal problem. And this was in 200 BC.